For this week's discussion, you are asked to apply what you learned about spiritual ecology to some questions of personal reflection. Spiritual ecology is another theoretical lens through which anthropologists study cultural understandings of the environment. So add it to your list of theoretical lenses, which you should apply during your multi-part monograph evaluation assignment. Spiritual ecology is a relatively new discipline, tracing its origins to work like this book by American anthropologist Roy Rappaport. He says, nature is seen by humans through a screen of beliefs, knowledge, and purposes, and it is in terms of their images of nature rather than the actual structure of nature that they act. Rappaport recognizes that there is a difference between how local communities think about their environment, including the meaning they apply to different aspects of that environment, and the operational goings-on of the biological ecosystem that humans may or may not understand, but that objectively exists in the background, and physical and biological scientists study that. Spiritual ecology, however, focuses on the former. Spiritual ecology seeks to understand how religion is linked with nature, impacts ecology, and promotes behavioral adaptations of people or communities to their local habitats. Spiritual ecology concerns itself with questions like, what is nature? How do we define that? What is humanity's place in nature? And the answer to this question could even be different between what we ideally think we should be doing, interacting with our environment, versus what we practically do on a day-to-day basis, more pragmatically. It also concerns itself with the location, attributes, and human treatment of sacred places. So, through the lens of spiritual ecology, a community has a certain religious belief system, its spirituality, which influences people's worldviews, their values, their attitudes, their behaviors, and all of these have real environmental consequences. And here I like to show you books for optional further study. If this topic is of interest to you, you could read more deeply about religion and the environment and how they influence each other in this text from 2002. Next, let me explain a few examples of topics that could be investigated through a spiritual ecology lens. My first example is from this image here of the Ganga River in India, which is a Hindu sacred waterway of spiritual significance. It's a place of spiritual purification from the water, and yet it is simultaneously very heavily polluted. This is a confusing juxtaposition between the degradation of the water with pollution and the reverence people have for this sacred space. So a spiritual ecology lens could investigate that confusing juxtaposition. You may also apply a spiritual ecology lens to investigate a juxtaposition of poverty and untapped resources. An example of this confusing juxtaposition also comes from India, where cows remain undisturbed, they're not butchered for meat, even though during hard times, people sometimes suffer protein malnutrition. In Hindu traditional belief systems, Holy Mother Cow symbolizes health and abundance. They're revered. Cows wander undisturbed among people who sometimes suffer severe malnutrition. So why aren't they butchered for food in these hard times? In order to understand why not, we need to know more about the cultural context. In this area, cows give birth to oxen, who are the tractors in this agriculturalist society. Cows also provide milk, which is consumed for food, and dung, which is used for fuel, like for fires, and fertilizer. So in this agriculturalist context, cows may be more valuable alive than butchered, such that even in hard times, cows are preserved And so this community may protect chances of its future agricultural success by espousing a spiritual belief system that reveres Holy Mother Cow and protects her from butchering in the hardest of times when people are the hungriest and most tempted to slaughter this resource for food, but that'd be shooting yourself in the foot because you need that cow to give birth to the next generation of animals and provide milk and dung for fuel and fertilizer. It is also useful to apply a spiritual ecology lens when investigating how religious practices transform the landscape. An example of this comes from Zimbabwe, where people believe in different types of forests. Some forests are sacred and others are not, and I'm calling those secular forests. Among Shona pastoralists in Zimbabwe, certain sacred forests have trees and rivers and mountains of spiritual significance, and they're animated by spirits who influence rainfall and the fertility of the land. This type of religious belief system is called animism, when inanimate objects are thought to be animated with a soul, or perhaps a deity lives in the mountain. They become spiritual entities. Among sacred forests in the same country where these spirits are thought to reside, there's 50% less deforestation than among neighboring secular forests. In Zimbabwe's sacred forests, there are 133 species of native plants that are endangered or extirpated, meaning extinct locally, in the rest of the country. So these 133 species of native plants are gone from the rest of Zimbabwe, but have maintained refuge in sacred forests. The point is that conservation campaigns appear more effective if spiritually sanctioned. With that brief introduction with those examples, and having completed the assigned reading and multimedia for this module, I look forward to reading your responses to 3 out of 4 of these discussion seeds, seed discussion 3. So number 1 is, if you happen to know about a particular religion or spiritual belief system, please describe how its values, attitudes, and behaviors could impact the environment. Number 2, contrast the attitudes and responsibilities toward the environment often taken when perceiving the environment as a globe in comparison to perceiving it as a sphere. So those concepts, globe and sphere, refer to Ingold chapter 12. Number 3, how has your own perception of the environment shifted as a result of Module 2? And option number 4, pick your favorite environmental problem, challenge, issue. How do you think changes in societal perception could contribute to environmentally beneficial policy change? And if you choose to answer number 4, please specify the perceptual shift that you think must occur prior to that policy change being successfully implemented. Bye.